What is up, Cats fans? It is Paul here from The Hoop Show, and I speak to you today from a very unique perspective. As a lot of you know, I'm obviously a big Cats fan, hence why I'm a part of the channel, but what actually preceded all my work in footy coverage was my work in the video game landscape, and it still is. And please, don't hesitate to check out my podcast Dev Diary. Go check out my written stuff at player2.net.au. Go check out my stuff on the Player 2 YouTube channel. All those sorts of things, and we'll get all those plugs out of the way now, because what I want to focus on today is the new AFL 23 game that is coming imminently. It's coming in really, really hot. April 13th of 2023 is when the game comes out. It's coming to all of the platforms, I believe, at this point. I've got to double check the whole thing, because I really should know off the top of my head. But it's coming to PlayStation. It's coming to Xbox. I believe it's coming to the Switch as well. But I could have that one wrong. Let's be real, the game's not going to be that demanding, so I think the Switch can probably hack it. But anyway, we're talking about the AFL 2023 game. It comes from Big Ant Studios, who are a team that they're a local team, perhaps unsurprisingly, but they've been really doing some incredible things in recent years. Prior to this, certainly the most recent entries that we've seen have all come from Wicked Witch, who, as a team, and this could come back to bite me one day, but they're not amazing. Like, they do solid work. They try their best. Their games are functional. It's all right. But Big Ant have been doing some incredible work in the last decade, in particular, with their cricket games. They've been really refining the art of the cricket video game. And we've seen some fantastic iterations in recent years. They've also been doing AO tennis, and they even do some really small niche things like lacrosse and stuff that we don't tend to see out here, but they've been working on those sorts of games as well. Like, this is a team that really knows and loves sport, and none more so than their local products, like cricket, like AFL. And so the latest game comes from Big Ant. Ross Simmons, the studio head, diehard Carlton supporter. He's made a mistake there. He's picked the wrong team, clearly. But, he loves footy. And that's, I think, a really, really important thing, that him and everyone else that's a part of that team loves and understands this game, and also can make video games at the same time. So what we're going to do, there's a little tease that actually I think I saw back at Grand Final week, but I guess it's public viewing now anyway. So we'll check out this little teaser for AFL 23 to begin with, and we'll go from there. Nacon, big Chinese publisher. Some money. Danger. Look, it's a pretty simple little thing, but I'll flick over to the AFL website where they kind of outline a little bit more information about the game. And we can see kind of Danger wrapping up Took Miller in a tackle here, in a screenshot. And there's a range of other information that we kind of learn about what this game is going to bring. I think the thing that is really important to disclose at the beginning, and something that I think gets lost by your typical AFL video game consumer, because the typical AFL game consumer isn't necessarily the biggest video game player more broadly. They might pick up a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Nintendo specifically for their AFL games, maybe a few sports games a year. Maybe they play GTA or something, like some of the really ultra mainstream titles. And so they potentially lose sight of the how and why AFL 23 and prior AFL games are what they are. We mustn't lose sight of the fact that where we see things like NBA 2K coming from a gigantic video game publisher like 2K or Take-Two, or the FIFA games, for example, that come from EA, these are the biggest, they're multi-billion dollar companies who just have been working their craft for decades. They turn them out every single year. They've got gigantic teams, and when they put a new game out, they make billions of dollars. We are a niche sport in comparison, and of course, we're not getting a game every single year. And so when it comes to something like AFL 23, and maybe that'll change, by the way, what Ross and the team in recent years been doing with cricket titles and with AO tennis and those sort of things, they've been putting them out at a more regular clip. So maybe we'll start to get to a point where we are going to see annual AFL games, and I'm sure the AFL will love that because it'll be a big money spinner for them. But as will Big Ant. But what is important to note is that graphically, the AFL games aren't going to stack up to what you see from a Madden, from what you see from a FIFA, what you see from 2K, any of those sorts of sports adaptations, simply because the money's not there. And the money pays for the better technology pays for the better game. And so let's not lose sight of the fact that players aren't going to look as great as a result. The crowd's not going to be as detailed or as animated as what you're going to see in other things. The venues, they might be well realized, but there is it's the moving pieces, not so much. And that's hopefully going to improve. Hopefully this game does well. Hopefully subsequent games do well, and there's more money, and they can improve their tech. And with all the things that Big Ant are doing, we're going to get better products. But please just keep in mind, we are not necessarily going to get the most amazing visually video games. And potentially even the commentary too. Sometimes the commentary can be a little bit wonky in some of these games too. Hope that's not the case though. But let's jump into this anyway. A little bit of a brief from the AFL website here. We're talking about 1,200 AFL and AFLW players. Really importantly, a thing that is becoming a big deal in the video game, sports video game landscape is a career mode, a management career mode. So it's kind of you build your custom player and you'll walk them through, assuming that we start them at 18 or something like that. We walk them through the TAC Cup. We walk them through the VFL or Waffle or Sandful or whatever it ends up being until they get or they get drafted. Then they move through those competitions and eventually they finally crack the starting 22 of an AFL team, and from there it's about building it up. Maybe they're a tall forward, so their goal is to kind of chase down the Coleman in that particular year, as well as maybe a premiership. Maybe you're a midfielder who's obviously going for the midfielders award in the Brownlow. Whatever it happens to be, there is like an arc there, and there's periphery characters, and there's a narrative that they build up. You find yourself in calls with your manager about, or your agent, about different sponsorship opportunities and those sort of things that emerge. But then as a result, you need to be kind of hitting certain match day criteria, get X number of kicks or kick X number of goals, take this many intercept marks, whatever it happens to be. I'm extrapolating a little bit here for what we see in other games and trying to apply it to our AFL setting. And so those things, if you hit those, you get more money. The more money that comes in, media, prestige, all these sort of things start to pile atop one another. And so you get this bit career that is more than just playing the game. And we know in 2023 that being an AFL player is not just about what you do on the weekend. It is not just about training. It's the media spots. It's the sponsorship gigs. It's the community engagement programs that they're a part of. All of it is huge. And so if they're looking to even partially replicate that through a management career mode, I'm really excited. You can create your own teams, players, stadiums, which is cool. Stadium creation could be interesting, but I wonder how kind of blocky it is. It's not going to be something like a Little Big Planet, that's for sure. Sorry for anyone who's not a video game player who just completely glazed over when I said Little Big Planet, but it is one of the most unbelievable, and Dreams and those things, one of the most unbelievable kind of custom game creating video games you'll ever see. You'll be able to employ game plans. Great, we can kind of execute on some plans. Considering you're typically assuming the role of kind of one player at a time in these AFL games, it is important that there's a strategic side that's going on. You're getting players moving to the right positions so that you can, burst from a pack and kind of hit the 45-degree kick, whatever it happens to be, to kind of center it up and maybe drive through the corridor, whatever kind of the tactic happens to be. You need those cogs moving in place in the background. The new management career mode will allow fans to take full control of their team, from recruiting, drafting, and player development to deciding game day tactics and structures. So maybe not quite as deep as perhaps what I'd supposed a moment ago, but full control of the team and all the moving pieces. There's a lot going on there. So it's more that top level, club level management as opposed to the individual career of a player. That might be the next step for Big Ant going forward. So hopefully that's something we kind of see in the future. Commentary. Hutto, which is going to be fantastic. Hamish McLaughlin, of course. Daisy Pearce, Daniel Harford, Kelly Underwood, Jason Bennett. So we've got some fantastic representation there on the male and female side, and some really great commentators as well. I mean, Anthony Hudson is just a genius. Has wheeled out some incredible lines over the years. Some things that have broken my heart as a Cats fan, but they broke his heart too in those moments. So let's never talk about the Miracle on Grass or anything else like it. But moving on, each player will have their own unique traits, allowing users to play to the individual strengths of the stars in their team. Great. The April 13 release date that I mentioned before. And then there's kind of a link to the trailer that we spoke about again. And they were thrilled to announce it. Great. The AFL 23 game is a crucial asset for the AFL to connect with our fans off the field, and we look forward to collaborating with Big Ant Studios to deliver the most exciting and authentic AFL gaming experience yet, said Kylie Rogers. There's my question answer before. It's not coming to the Switch. PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. That will be PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, which is cool, I guess. I'm surprised they're not going for Switch, but maybe we'll see kind of a Switch port somewhere down the line. April 13 is awfully close. We're like a month away at this point. Obviously, the news is about 4 or 5 days old before I decide to really crack into it. But I'm confident because I'm confident in the pedigree of Big Ant. They have gone from a team who was maybe a little bit patchy and a little bit flaky early on. They might have a good release and they might put out a few duds or whatever, to a team that, especially when it comes to their cricket titles, continues to nail it. They're putting a lot of effort into the mocap and those sorts of things. They're getting a lot of players coming through to get their faces scanned and the whole thing to try and recreate it. And again, it doesn't mean they're going to look one-to-one. You can scan all you like, but the technology needs to be there to be able to render that on screen, let alone there's performance things. You're trying to hit certain frame rates, all those sorts of video game technical aspects that need to be hit as well. We'll get there. But if you take a look at the NBA, you take a look at the Madden games, you take a look at the FIFA games, they're not perfect yet either. They're a lot further along, admittedly, but they're not perfect yet either. There is a lot of road ahead of all sporting video game adaptations. And so Big Ant's got a little bit more ahead of them, but I think they can catch up. And I really, really hope that AFL 23 goes well. Expect to hear and see a lot more about the game on the channel here over the course of the next month or more. We might even get a little bit funny with some game sims in the game. I might put them out on the YouTube channel as well for a bit of fun. Maybe, I don't necessarily want to commit to it, but maybe like a playthrough of Geelong v Collingwood for round one. Well, not that we can do that. Geelong v, I don't know, some team that we play in round 6 or 7 after the game comes out. All of those sorts of things. That could be a good bit of fun. So who knows? Maybe we'll see more of that in the future. But again, we'll play that trailer one more time in the background. We'll just crank that volume down a little bit. Please make sure to stay tuned for more from the game over the course of the coming weeks. I'm excited, despite the fact that, obviously it doesn't necessarily visually stack up to other sporting games. This is going to be pretty cool. I hope you're excited too. And of course, thank you very much for watching. Go Cats!